Federal prosecutors just declared rap star Pooh Shiesty way too dangerous to release on bond. Gucci Mane actually leaked video of Pooh Shiesty robbing him. But if you think you know the full story between these two, our news team guarantees you lack the full picture. This is not just a standard hip-hop beef, internet rumor. We uncovered actual footage. Federal charges are filed, and Gucci Mane is officially cooperating with the government to ensure Pooh Shiesty stays behind bars forever. Even his own security guard submitted a letter to the judge begging them to deny Shiesty bond. Let that sink in. The exact man who signed the Memphis rapper, who held his label spot during jail time, who publicly kept him on the roster when everyone else was cut. That same label boss now sits on the opposing side of a federal case, and the evidence he holds might send Shiesty to prison for life. We are tracking federal kidnapping charges. A weapon allegedly pointed at Gucci's head, all while Shiesty was still on supervised release for a previous conviction when this alleged crime went down. A single charge carries a maximum life sentence, and our sources closest to this federal case are not treating this like hip-hop drama. They see it as the end. Behind our breaking headline is a story much deeper than mainstream outlets report. Our investigative desk reviewed the federal criminal complaint, the FBI, affidavit, official court filings, detention hearing transcripts, and the fully documented timeline of exactly how Gucci Mane and Pooh Shiesty went from a massive Southern rap partnership into a devastating federal kidnapping case with a life sentence caught on tape. Trust our news desk. The real truth hits harder. Before we continue, hit that subscribe button. Our editorial team refuses to do surface-level breakdowns. We go deep, highly documented, and we give every hip-hop news layer proper treatment. Drop a like right now, because the facts are way deeper than the blogs claim. What Gucci did, how this evidence leaked, and what federal agents say happened inside that studio remains totally unexplained by others. Let our anchors take you back to where Pooh Shiesty started. Lonnie L. Donnell Williams Jr. was born on November 8, 1999, in Memphis, Tennessee. For viewers who do not know the culture, Memphis rap carries its own unique DNA. Gritty, stripped back, street-rooted, with a rawness that does not apologize for anything. This exact city gave our industry 3-6 Mafia, Yo Gotti, and Young Dolph. Artists who rose up releasing trap music that felt less like performance, more like street testimony. Shiesty fit that gritty mold perfectly from day one. He began dropping independent tracks in 2019, with his debut single Hell Night generating serious buzz locally and across the southern hip-hop scene. He built organically, single by single, without any major record label machinery backing him. Still, his voice was undeniable. The rap energy was undeniable. It did not take long before an industry heavyweight noticed. That executive was Radric Delanik Davis, known better to us as Gucci Mane, Guwap, one of the absolute founding fathers of trap music. A pioneer who, in the mid-2000s, was creating the sonic blueprint that would eventually influence a massive generation of rap artists. Gucci had already successfully launched huge careers, like Young Thug, and secured a Grammy nomination for his high-profile appearance on Lizzo's hit track, Exactly How I Feel. He remains a key figure who literally built the trap sound, making Atlanta the ultimate rap capital. In 2020, after years rebuilding his empire following his own personal and legal setbacks, Gucci was running 1017 Records, rebranded as the New 1017, actively scouting new rap artists for fresh talent to anchor his label. By April 2020, Gucci Mane officially signed Pooh Shiesty to a joint venture deal with 1017 and Atlantic Records. According to verified Billboard reporting, the contract was reportedly worth $10 million. Let our news team break down what that actually means for a rapper hustling independently out of Memphis. This was not just some basic business contract. That signature was a major stamp, a massive cosign from Southern rap royalty, instantly paired with the global distribution power of one of the biggest labels worldwide. Shiesty himself told reporters why he picked Gucci's imprint, stating, "I do not know who else I would go to. Nobody was coming at me like that. It made perfect sense." They celebrated the deal by releasing a collaborative single. They publicly presented a powerful mentor and protege dynamic to the media. For a brief moment, it felt like the start of something historic. The momentum from that signing was instant. Gucci started placing Shiesty on major 1017 projects, including So Icy Summer, a massive compilation released in July 2020, introducing Shiesty to a massive national audience. Major collaborations like Still Remember and Who Is Him featuring Gucci. Hit subscribe as we report this. On November 6, 2020, Shiesty dropped Back in Blood featuring Lil Durk. That track became his biggest solo hit yet, climbing to number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100. He also featured on Spot'em Got'em's Beatbox 2 remix, securing number 12 on that same chart. In under 12 months of signing his deal, Pooh Shiesty was already landing massive records in the top 15 of the world's biggest singles chart. He earned an XXL freshman title and Billboard's Hip Hop Rookie of the Month. Our news desk watched the machine working perfectly, and Shiesty was the engine. Then on February 5th, 2021, Shiesty's season arrived. His debut mixtape launched as a 17-track project featuring Lil Durk, Gucci Mane, Big 30, 21 Savage, and others. It debuted at number 3 on the Billboard 200, moving 62,000 album units its very first week. As commentators, we know that is no soft debut. That is a loud statement. That is the kind of first, it is the kind of massive project performance most hip-hop artists dream of but never achieve. Gucci bet on a winner, and Shiesty delivered. Hit like on this video, because here is where our investigation uncovers the spicy details. In October 2020, before the mixtape dropped, Shiesty was arrested regarding a Bay Harbor Islands, Florida shooting at a property called the Land Inn Hotel. He bonded out initially, and the music kept moving. But in June 2021, police arrested him again for a Memorial Day weekend shooting at a Miami-Dade County strip club. Shortly after that incident, authorities formally indicted the rapper on 4 major counts tied directly to that October 2020 shooting. The federal charges detailed a crazy scene where prosecutors allege Shiesty and his crew arrived to buy marijuana, codeine, and expensive sneakers from 2 sellers. During this meetup, federal agents stated a crew member pulled a gun, shooting 2 victims who both miraculously survived. Our news team confirmed investigators later tied Shiesty to the crime scene, using the most internet-era piece of evidence we have ever reported on, his very own Instagram account. Detectives found that a Louis Vuitton bag left in the Land Inn Hotel parking lot matched the exact same one Shiesty posted constantly across his social media profiles. Then, the evidence got dangerously specific. Several $100 bills inside that bag shared identical serial numbers with cash visible in close-up pictures, Shiesty posted online. His digital flexing literally placed him at the crime scene. We call that some heavy poetic irony. Now, throughout 2021 and early 2022, the legal case evolved. When Shiesty finally entered a guilty plea in January 2022, prosecutors narrowed it down to 1 count: conspiracy to possess firearms in furtherance of violent crimes, drug trafficking. As part of this major plea deal, prosecutors dropped 3 other heavy charges, including one carrying a potential life sentence. On April 20th, 2022, United States District Judge Kevin Michael Moore sentenced Lontrell Williams Jr. to 63 months in federal prison, which is 5 years and 3 months, along with 3 years of supervised release. The court ordered him to pay $35,000 in restitution. His defense attorney, Bradford Cohen, noted, post-sentencing, that Shiesty felt relieved. The judge heard their argument, and that both the lawyer and the hip-hop star were highly pleased with this outcome, given the maximum prison exposure they faced. At the time of this sentencing, Shiesty was just 22 years old, and Shiesty's season had hit number 3 on the Billboard 200. He was in the middle of modern rap's most incredible rookie run. Then, it all completely stopped. The album's momentum, the big feature placements, and the sophomore rap project that would have cemented his legacy, all of it totally paused, from street decisions outside the studio. But stick with us, this is where the story pivots. During his prison stint, Gucci Mane made a massive public statement regarding the 1017 roster. In a viral video posted around October 2024, Gucci announced he was dropping nearly his entire roster, citing tough profit and lost decisions. But as editors, we noticed he deliberately kept 2 names, Fujiano and Pooh Shiesty. Even with Shiesty behind bars and his release date roughly 18 months away, Gucci publicly held his artist spot. He even confirmed to TMZ in 2025 that Shiesty remained officially signed. If you follow rap industry news, that level of loyalty from a music executive toward a locked-up rapper is extremely rare today. Most labels just move on, rosters get completely restructured, leaving returning artists with closed doors. Gucci kept Shiesty's door wide open. Looking back now, that makes the upcoming reports even harder to process. Subscribe below. Because Shiesty was released early from federal prison on October 6, 2025, serving roughly 3 years of his sentence thanks to the First Step Act, which is a 2018 bipartisan criminal justice reform law allowing federal inmates to earn valuable credits toward an early release for good behavior and program participation. Our records show his original projected release date was April 11, 2026, meaning that early out knocked about 6 months off his bid. His lawyer, Bradford Cohen, dropped a statement saying he was hyped Shiesty was finally home, calling it just the start of a massive second act. And honestly, it looked legit. On December 12, 2025, Pooh Shiesty dropped FDO, his very first post-prison track. The record debuted at 22 on the Billboard Hot 100 and skyrocketed straight to #1 on Billboard Hot R&B, Hip Hop, and Hot Rap Songs charts. Listen, a comeback track hitting #1 on the rap charts after 3 years away is way more than a solid flex. It proves the fans had been waiting, that they were hungry, and that despite the drama, his star power remained untouched. The perfect comeback story was writing itself, and the whole rap industry was watching. But before we get deeper into this wild twist, hit that like button, because underneath all that success, something explosive was brewing. According to a federal criminal affidavit filed by FBI agent Brittany Garcia, Shiesty was extremely fed up with his current recording contract over at 1017 Records. Hip-hop news outlets like Complex also reported that right around this time, Yo Gotti and his CMG's empire were heavily interested in snatching up Shiesty, meaning Gotti was going head-to-head with Gucci Mane for the young star. Now, let me break down why this is huge. Gotti and Gucci have a historically complex beef stretching back years. Two heavyweight Southern music executives with overlapping rosters and seriously competing agendas. So, Shiesty allegedly trying to jump ship from 1017 to CMG was never just business. It was deeply personal. And it is inside that exact pressure cooker, bad contracts, rival label interest, and the heavy chains of a deal signed 6 years ago that prosecutors claim set the explosive events of January 10, 2026 into violent motion. Now listen close. Federal court documents state that Shiesty set up a meeting with Gucci Mane and his crew at a recording studio right on Dallas Parkway. The official reason was to negotiate out that exact recording contract with 1017 Records. Gucci Mane, known in the federal documents simply as RD, flew down to Dallas with 2 guys described as music industry executives. These 3 men touched down that Saturday afternoon, totally convinced they were just walking into a standard corporate meeting. What prosecutors claim went down instead feels way more like a cinematic thriller than real-life hip-hop news. According to the feds, once those 3 victims stepped inside, Shiesty demanded to talk to the label boss privately in a back recording booth. Gucci Mane stepped inside with Shiesty, alongside Shiesty's own father, Lonnie Trill Williams Sr., and fellow Memphis artist Rodney Wright Jr., famously known as Big 30. What started as a closed-door business chat allegedly took a brutal left turn. Prosecutors insist Shiesty suddenly produced official contract termination papers and ordered the music mogul to sign them. When Gucci refused, Shiesty allegedly reached into a bag, pulled a black AK-style pistol, pointed it right at Gucci Mane, and demanded his signature. The affidavit states he signed it. And after that, Shiesty allegedly snatched his wedding ring, watch, earrings, and straight cash. But the real shocker is what was going down simultaneously right outside that studio door. While Gucci was trapped inside, the other suspects allegedly flashed their own firearms and moved on the 2 victims outside. One guy, identified in court docs purely as MM, was choked from behind until he almost passed out, losing a Rolex watch, a Louis Vuitton bag, and various other items entirely. Another victim was violently shoved onto a couch, robbed of his wallet and jewelry. Big 30, prosecutors, literally blocked that studio door with his body so nobody could escape the room. And based on the complaint during the standoff, these victims truly believed they were going to be murdered. Subscribe to the channel, because here is where we unpack the hardcore evidence, because the federal prosecution gets incredibly specific right here. The electronic ankle monitoring data from Shiesty's own bracelet, which he was legally forced to wear on supervised release from that 2022 conviction, placed him dead center at that studio on January 10th, completely destroying any alibi that wasn't in the building. For you and I looking at this, understand that on federal home confinement, that heavy ankle monitor pings your exact GPS constantly. There is literally no room to fake your location. Moreover, cell phone, towers, and automatic license plate readers also confirmed that multiple defendants had driven up together from Memphis out to Dallas right before the ambush, crashing at a local Dallas hotel after the smoke cleared. Camera footage from the studio and surrounding businesses was cited in the federal complaint. Fingerprint evidence. Fingerprints we reviewed from studio items, including red plastic cups, legally tied several defendants to the scene. Our newsroom also examined court files highlighting social media posts these defendants made hours and days after the incident. Investigators claim they were caught flexing massive amounts of stolen cash and iced-out jewelry online, plundered during the robbery. Before we expose this calculated plot, hit subscribe. Now, the federal affidavit states that Shiesty's own father, Latrell Williams Sr., now a co-defendant, visited a Staples store just hours before the meetup. Our sources confirm that is where the extortion contract release papers were printed. The chilling implication is that they prepared this termination paperwork way in advance. The entire meeting was clearly constructed from the jump as an ambush setup. This was no accidental escalation. Prosecutors argue it was absolutely premeditated. Now, let's talk about Big 30. Drop a like as our team breaks down his major co-defendant role, Rodney. Wright Jr. has been Shiesty's closest hip-hop collaborator, dating way back to their early Memphis days. Their 2019 debut, Hail Night, sparked everything for them. According to the prosecution team's filing, Big 30's alleged studio role was far from passive. Federal affidavits claim he physically handed Shiesty a bag hiding the AK-style pistol, and recorded Gucci Mane on his phone being forced to sign the contract, release under duress, then barricaded that studio door with his own body so nobody could escape. When he was busted, cops reportedly found firearms stashed in his ride. The rap career implications for him are just as severe as for Shiesty. In April 2026, federal prosecutors filed a motion arguing Big 30 stayed detained specifically because he was about to ink a seven-figure record deal. They framed that massive contract not as a stabilizing factor, but as a major flight risk. A Tennessee judge initially granted him a $100,000 bond, but Texas Judge Ed Kinkead instantly stayed that order. The label deal that should have been his biggest career moment actually became a weapon prosecutors used against him in a detention brief. On April 2nd and 3rd, 2026, 8 of the 9 co-defendants were grabbed across Dallas, Memphis, and Nashville. The 9th suspect was still being hunted down at the time. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Texas, led by Ryan Raybould, held a press conference to announce the charges. Raybould explicitly called Shiesty the conspiracy's main ringleader and described the alleged setup plainly. The music executives came to Dallas to handle legitimate hip-hop business and were instead met with firearms and extreme violence. On April 28th, a federal grand jury returned an 18-page formal indictment unsealed shortly after, officially charging all 9 defendants. We read the indictment. It includes 5 counts. Count 1 hits them with kidnapping conspiracy spanning early January through January 13th, 2026. Counts 2 through 4 charge substantive kidnapping and vicious extortion, including aiding and abetting liability. And Count 5 charges 4 co-defendants with hauling those stolen luxury goods across state lines. The government also demands forfeiture of all proceeds and assets linked to these alleged offenses. All 9 defendants face up to life behind bars if convicted on the kidnapping conspiracy count alone. On April 8th and 9th, 2026, a detention hearing went down before U.S. Magistrate Judge Renee Harris Talley in Dallas. This is where both legal teams laid out their arguments publicly for the very first time. We need to break down the evidence each side is actually working with here. On the prosecution side, ankle monitor data places Shiesty at the crime scene. A Staples receipt exposes his father, plus the social media posts flexing the stolen jewelry. and license plate reader data tracking the rap crew traveling from Memphis to Dallas together. Add in studio fingerprint evidence, plus the fact Shiesty was actively violating the terms of his supervised release from his 2022 conviction during this mess. Prosecutors also highlighted that Gucci Mane's wedding ring, watch, and earrings were aggressively taken. Snatching personal items, not just cash, adds a heavy layer of premeditated humiliation to the alleged robbery. Our team thinks that's hard to explain away as a simple misunderstanding. On the defense side, the attorneys are heavily focused on the gaps. The FBI admitted during the hearing they hadn't directly interviewed Gucci Mane or the other victims when making the arrest, relying instead on quick statements given to Dallas police at the crime scene. Shiesty's legal team blasted it as a he said case, flagging the 3-month delay between the January incident and the April takedown as a massive procedural concern. The defense lawyers also pointed out that the contract document prosecutors hyped as the centerpiece of this extortion case, the signed release from 1017 records, had not been recovered or produced in court during that initial detention hearing. Absolutely none of it. Contract, no video of the signing, and 0 direct FBI interviews with the main victim. Those are real major gaps his defense team will absolutely hammer at trial. Williams kept shaking his head during the testimony, but Judge Tolliver ordered him to stay locked up anyway, stating clearly, "I find that the weight of the evidence against you is strong." Shiesty got moved to the Kaufman County Jail by mid-April. By the end of April, he filed a motion for new lawyers, which the judge granted. Early May 2026, he pleaded not guilty to all charges. By mid-May, the judge set a federal trial date for July 6, 2026, right down in Dallas, with a final pre-trial hearing booked for July 1st. Right now, as we report this, the case sits in pre-trial status. All 9 defendants face the exact same criminal charges and share that same standard of innocent until proven guilty. Subscribe to our channel, and let's break down the realistic outcomes for this July trial. Federal kidnapping charges carry some of the harshest potential sentences in the entire federal system. Under Title 18, Section 1201, a conviction means potential life in prison. If prosecutors prove victims were harmed, a mandatory 20-year minimum kicks in. On top of that, Shiesty faces serious supervised release violations from his 2022 Florida conviction. That means any fresh prison time could run consecutively, stacking over whatever the judge already handed down, not alongside it. For Big 30, the risk is identical. If his defense can somehow create reasonable doubt, especially regarding that missing contract, the heavily delayed arrest, and the total lack of direct FBI interviews with the main victim, an acquittal or hung jury is legally possible. But remember, federal conviction rates in the U.S. constantly sit above 85%. Cases built on ankle monitor data, fingerprints, security footage, and social media tracking are incredibly tough to beat in court. The prosecution's case shows obvious holes, but it also packs multiple independent layers of hard evidence. That is the reality Shiesty's defense team faces this July 6th. Drop a like on the video, and let's examine Gucci Mane's response, because this is where the viral internet narrative really caught massive momentum. Let's be clear, Gucci Mane never called a press conference. He never dropped a tell-all YouTube video, and he didn't leak any security footage himself. What he actually did was release music. On April 10th, 2026, Gucci dropped Crash Dummy, a heavy track produced by Zaytoven. They says, lyrics spoke entirely about the emotional toll of getting set up by someone deep inside your inner circle. Without naming Shiesty directly, the industry references were crystal clear. Lines about stepping into a room and sensing betrayal brewing around him. Raps about fake friends smiling before stabbing your back. Warnings about never biting the hand that feeds you. And probably the most savage bar of all, a line essentially saying, "After everything I did for you, you were still signed to my label." That lyric hit incredibly hard. It wasn't just venting, it was a pointed reference to the official label paperwork that allegedly sparked this entire violent confrontation. That exact track is where the online rumor mill exploded. Hip-hop commentary pages picked it up. TikToks got reposted. Captions started claiming Gucci was exposing everything and dropping the tape. The word tape started flying around as slang for both the single and the supposed security footage, completely blurring reality. It confused his diss track with the rumor that he personally leaked damning video evidence online. And honestly, that's exactly how the headline you clicked on was born. Social media compressed a federal complaint, a bail hearing, a rap beef, and 5 years of industry history into one single sentence. That rumor spread faster than the truth. Subscribe for real hip-hop facts. Now, this isn't just about rap blogs getting it wrong. This goes way deeper, because the entire Gucci and Shiesty saga was a massive mentorship story. In hip-hop culture, that dynamic carries heavy weight. A cosign from an absolute legend like Gucci Mane isn't a basic business deal. It's a blood vouch. It's an OG putting their name and reputation behind yours, telling the whole rap game this kid is worth betting on. Gucci kept Shiesty on the 1017 label roster, while nearly everyone else got dropped. He loudly defended their business bond even, while Shiesty sat behind federal bars. But then, if these dark allegations hold up, the first move Shiesty made after his release was flying to Dallas, allegedly shoving a gun in his mentor's face over a paperwork dispute. If true, we're not just talking about a crime. It's a complete betrayal of everything a rap cosign stands for. The craziest part, though, is the timing. Shiesty walked out of federal lockup in October 2025, having just served hard time for a gun conspiracy charge. He was on home confinement. He wore an ankle monitor. Let's look at the facts. His release conditions were crystal clear. No federal crimes, no firearms. And if the federal prosecutors are right, he allegedly shattered every single one of those strict rules within just 3 months of coming home. His comeback track hit #1. The rap industry was ready to welcome him back with open arms. Allegedly, none of that mattered. From a pure business standpoint, the fallout is absolutely massive. Big label contracts, packed tour dates, and a highly anticipated second album were all lined up for Pooh Shiesty. A comeback story outshining the debut is extremely rare, but his streaming metrics proved it was happening. Now, all of that stops cold for a federal kidnapping trial and a potential life sentence. 4. Gucci Mane and 1017 Records. The contract. Shiesty allegedly tried to strong-arm his way out of remains trapped in legal limbo. We have to ask what this dangerous move signals to other young artists and future rap signings today. A. Mentor builds their legacy on the success of the rookies they back. When a gamble turns into a nightmare, like this, things get messy in ways no hit record or court document can ever fix. Hip-hop has always struggled with the dark clash between a rapper's public image and the harsh reality of their private choices. Pooh Shiesty built his brand on pure street grit. The ski mask, that Memphis energy, and an absolute refusal to fake it for the cameras. But selling a hardcore image to fans is completely different from living a life that destroys your freedom. And when those two worlds collide violently inside a federal court building, the real-world damage hits harder than any platinum plaque ever could. But listen, this explosive story is far from over. The trial kicks off in July 2026. His defense team found serious holes in the prosecutor's claims. Shiesty has entered a strict not guilty plea. Big 30 and the remaining crew face their own court battles. Until the jury speaks, the actual facts of what really went down on January 10th inside that Dallas studio remain locked in a slow legal process. It moves at its own pace, no matter what social media blogs decided 2 days after the bust. But here is what we know with absolute certainty today. The bond between Gucci Mane and Pooh Shiesty, arguably one of the most powerful and promising duos in modern Southern hip-hop, crashed and burned in the most public, chaotic, and heavily documented the way you can imagine. An icon who saved the label spot for a young star serving 3 years in federal prison somehow wound up, prosecutors claim, staring down the barrel of a gun held by that exact same artist inside a Dallas recording booth. The diss track Gucci dropped right after doesn't speak in polished PR statements or frantic social media rants. It speaks the language hip-hop veterans always use when the booth is the very last weapon available. Cold bars, a heavy beat, and the brutal truth of what happens when the money stops and nobody is laughing anymore. The massive question now is what July brings. When the jury sits down, every single piece of evidence, the GPS monitor data, the studio security footage, the Instagram threats, the printed staples, receipt gets exposed in federal court. And whatever verdict echoes out of that room will write the absolute final chapter to a deeply shocking story in modern rap history. Our news team is covering every single twist as it drops. So if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button now. We want to hear from you below. What do you think truly happened in that Dallas studio? And what does this say about the actual cost of loyalty in rap? See you in the next news update.